frustrated for that logo on the side of your helmet and not the name on your back.
Yes, sir.
Because we know what it represents. It represents everybody here you see and everybody you can't that we've talked about. I'm here to strain with you, man. I swear to God, I'm here to strain with you. Let's go. Everything you got, strain with everything you got. Let's go. Bills on 3. 1, 2, 3. Bills.
You're listening to the Off Tackle with John Fina show with your host, Joe Miller. Well, what is going on, everybody? Welcome everybody into the Off Tackle with John Fina show, brought to you by the Market Dominator on the Buffalo Rumblings vidcast network, presented by Picasso's Pizza. Treat yourself to the most flavorful pizza on game day. Picasso's, we are Buffalo Pizza, shipping local nationwide. Order online at picassospizza.net. I am the host of this here lovely show, the Off Tackle with John Fina show. My name is Joe Miller. You can find me on Twitter, Joe Miller Wired, and sitting beside me is not John Fina. It is the formidable Jerry O, the big O, Jerry Ostrowski, former Buffalo Bill for how long? 9 years? Was it 9 or?
Yeah, I was up there 10 if you count practice squad. So
10.
I was in Buffalo for 10 years, but 9 years playing.
But John Fina is not going to be with us this evening, and I'll explain that here in a second. But Jerry O, welcome to the show.
I'm flattered. I mean, I feel like I got called up from the practice squad to be on such a amazing show. Huge fan of you guys. Watch you every week. You do a wonderful job, and it's nice to be able to watch a show that gets down to the real content and talks about real stuff.
Well, I appreciate that. It's great to have you. So John Fina is not going to be with us for this episode. His mom, Anne-Marie Fina, passed away yesterday after, I don't know, there was a period of time there where she was, what's the word you would use? Not deteriorating, but she was coming to the end, I guess is the way that you would say it.
Right.
A wonderful woman who you got to meet, if I'm not mistaken, and being that I never did get the opportunity to meet Mrs. Fina, why don't, if you've got something just that
the thing about her, she's 86 years old when she passed, and she lived a wonderful life. And the thing about her was, if you know, if you have a friend or you have your mother's this way, she was a true blue Italian matriarchal mother.
Awesome.
She was a true blue Italian lady, like my grandmother, and that's why I loved her. She reminded me of back home, and she loved her family. She loved kids. She loved a lot of people. Did a lot of stuff with exchange students and all those things, up with people. So, Godspeed, Mrs. Fina. We'll see you at some point.
Yeah, Mrs. Fina went on to be with the Lord, and just as Jerry just said, we will see her again someday because she was awesome and loved Jesus. So, if you're a praying individual, thoughts and prayers go out to John Fina and his family as they've lost their mom, and obviously Mimi and the kids have lost their grandmother. So,
exactly.
Our hearts, minds, thoughts, everything are with you, John. So I doubt you're listening, but if you catch it on the replay, just know that we are with you in spirit this evening. So, so we got a lot to talk about. We have a football game to talk about, but before we do, I want to get in a word from our sponsor, John Spazchek, the Market Dominator, and his team.
Strategy, block, vision, get your vision up, balance, foot back, head up. Yeah, these are some of the strategies my good friend John Fina used to dominate on the field when he was playing for our great Buffalo football team. And these are some of the things that I use in real estate to dominate as the Market Dominator, and also the proud sponsor of the John Fina Show, hosted by Joe Miller. So if you want to win in the real estate market, it's going to be important to bring good vision so you can see what's out there, good balance of the market. Folks, strategy is critical, and this is what we do. We educate, we advocate, we negotiate, and we dominate. So if you want to win the way our football team is, you call me directly, 716-570-3298. Let's go, Buffalo!
So
those are fine zone steps, man. Those kids are coached well.
I was just wondering if what they're doing and what he was doing was actually legitimately accurate. I was going to ask you, like, how are his head up, strategy thing.
He wasn't too bad. Good independent hands. But those guys behind him were well coached. They were doing well.
I don't know where he got that video from. He provided it, but John is the man. And ladies and gentlemen, we ask you guys to support all of our sponsors. If you're in the market to buy or sell a home, please call John and his team. You will not regret it. He's my agent. 716-570-3298 is the number. And I actually have the wrong banner up. It's supposed to be this one. So John would yell at me if he was in the room. But football game. The Buffalo Bills this past weekend dropped I would not say that it was a heartbreaker. I would say that it was the phrase that I used at the top of my show, the Overreaction post-game show, was that it was a barbarian war against David and wounded Goliath on the surface of the sun with no water. Do you accurately describe that football game? I mean,
yes, you could say it was that way. There's some things about the game that were interesting to me. There was some good play. There was some really bad stuff that happened. But the thing, I want to go back to Ken Dorsey's moment at the end of the game.
Loved it.
I loved every minute of it, because when you understand, here's the thing, and I'm sorry for the apologists out there and the soft people that think that was bad and we're going to write editorials about it and everything else. When you put that much time and effort into something and it's right there for you and you have the opportunity to win and you don't, it's sometimes it releases things in you that are not great. And I was always told from a young age that football games are determined on about 7 plays a game. Okay. And Dorsey calls all these plays. Now, if you'll ask him, every play is designed to score, okay? Even a fullback dive. But he knows, too, that he's going to get to a situation where I got a chance to make a play to win a game.
Right.
And he did everything, and it was right in front of him. He called the perfect play. The play was there, and it wasn't made. And not only was it not made, it was not made by your best player on your team. And that's kind of hard to take sometimes.
Yeah.
But you know what? They're going to go back to work. They'll get hydrated. They'll get their bodies back right, and they'll be ready to play this week.
Yeah. So we are going to talk about this game. We're going to have we're going to go through the regular rigmarole, as my dad likes to say. We got some video clips that you're going to break down for us as far as just from some execution standpoint for this game. We're going to talk about the good. We're going to talk about the what needs work. We're going to talk about our next expectations, and we're going to start just as you did with thoughts on this game. And I will say this: if anybody out there watching us live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter has a question for Jerry, or you got a comment, the best thing that you can do is jump over to YouTube and you can do a thing called a super chat. So it'll show up and it'll glow on our screen, and I'm what's the word? I'm obligated to read it at that point.
Yes.
I'll do my best to monitor the chat in the comment section while you guys are here and while Jerry's talking. If I miss something, I'm not ignoring you. It's just sometimes that's the way that it works. But for me, my thoughts on this game, I wasn't upset. I had a confidence about this football game going into it, even with the injuries, and it wasn't a confidence that we were going to win. It wasn't a pregame. Jerry, you were a member of this team. I mean, you were a member of this team kind of at the ledge, right? When everything went down. And I know that you follow this team, and it went from being as a child for me, not a child, high school or college person, whatever, right? College student into my early adult years, and just always expecting this team to win. That's what you expected. It's Sunday, we're going to win. Like, that's what we do. To 17 years, 20 years of getting our asses beat in by the Patriots, literally laying eggs on national TV, folding like a chair. Like, if we were up, we ended up down. Like, if we had a good defense, the offense sucked. If we had a good offense, the defense sucked. If we had a fantastic, phenomenal defense, Rex Ryan came in and took it from a 4-3 wide 9 to a 3-4 hybrid and blew it up and destroyed it. Like, it just seemed like so it wasn't even a situation of like, no, this team is good and I'm going to win. I had a feeling of, it doesn't matter. If we lose this game, the whole season isn't teetering on this one football game. Is kind of where I was. And even after the game, there were six misses. There were 6 things that could have changed the outcome of that football game. Josh Allen skipping that ball to Isaiah McKenzie in the end zone, right? The bobbled snap at the half, so we didn't get to kick a field goal there. Gabe Davis dropping that touchdown. Matt Milano with the missed pick 6. I mean, the shanked field goal. There's play after play after play after play that easily this game could have been 40-21, right?
No, you're totally correct. And if you look at the thing that was alarming to me, and I understand that it was hot, and we've all, if you played the game long enough, we've all played in games like that. I think I played in Miami probably 8 or 9 times, I think, something like that. But if you look at just what happened, I think the guy in the building that's probably the most disappointed right now and is probably back at the drawing board trying to figure it all out is the head strength coach. He's probably meeting with his people right now, and he's trying to figure out why did we, the term that we used to use is bonk. And it's kind of one of those deals when it goes, and you can't get it back. Right. Why did we bonk so hard? Why did we? And if you look at all those key mistakes, Joe, when were they? They were at the end of the first half and the end of the second half, right?
Right.
Back when we were probably the most tired.
Right.
Out of gas. Exactly. And when you're tired like that, you can't think. It's that simple. And to see that many guys go off to take IVs, to see that many guys go off with heat related issues, that was kind of interesting to me. I know it was crazy hot. No, you can't go ahead and put shade over the visiting stands and give them the same thing that the Dolphins. If you're going to do that, then what are you going to do, folks? You're going to create a nice little warm igloo in December when they come up here? No, it's called home field advantage, right? It's that way for a reason.
Well,
you just have to be prepared.
It brings up a good question, and I put this. I tweeted this back at somebody, and it was a national person. I don't remember exactly who it was, but I'm one who I don't like to sit in the cold, but I appreciate the home field advantage, and I very much believe that Buffalo is a home field advantage stadium, as is Green Bay, as is Chicago, cold weather stadiums, Seattle in the wintertime, because these guys come from South Florida, or they come from Texas, or they come from Arizona, and they're not used to playing, or some of the cold weather teams where they're not used to being outside Minnesota. They come to Buffalo, and now they're in the elements. So I'm a fan of that home field advantage. But what I kind of tweeted back is you don't do anything unless the NFL mandates domes for every city, for every team. And this is the question I want to ask you. Is it time the NFL mandates domes for every city? I mean, doesn't it affect the purity of the game?
I say no, but the reason they would mandate a dome is if, what's getting ready to happen, which is legalized gambling across the United States. And if they think having a dome stadium makes the most equal, playing advantage for both sides, and I could see them doing it.
Right.
But, I always thought it was much tougher going to Miami in December. When you're sitting there and, your rear ends is, you're up in Buffalo, and for the last 3 months, it's been 15 below zero, and you're outside snow blowing your driveway or whatever else. And then you get on a plane and you got to go play in 89, 90 degree weather.
Right.
And it's like that. To me, that was the worst, because you put on a little bit of weight from the holidays, and then you're going down. It's just so no, I always thought it was tougher later in the season than earlier in the season. So anyway, that was a big thing to me. That was one area of concern. The other area of concern was we were not as strong as we normally are up the middle of both sides of the ball. Jordan Phillips not playing was a huge
Ed Oliver as well.
Yep, and Ed Oliver not being in there. And then we didn't have Mitch Morse either. And when you're in a hostile environment and situation like that, and you don't have your number one A center that's played for what? How many years has Mitch played? 13? I don't know, something like that.
No, it's not that long. I think he's in his 8th year.
Okay, eighth year. I mean, a guy that has that much experience.
Yeah, 4 years in Kansas City, and then I think this is his 4th year with Buffalo. I could be wrong. I'm close.
Right. As much as Van Ruten fought his rear end off, I mean, it's a tough draw for him. You're playing in a hostile environment, huge heat with a loud crowd.
You played center for this football team. You played every position, did you not?
Yes, everything but left tackle. Nobody could take left tackle. That was Johnny's.
So speak real quick if you could, because the things that I know, and it's funny because one thing that's not talked about, sidebar, and I didn't necessarily, I'm sure that I may have known, but it didn't strike me. So the botched snap at the end of the half, when Josh Allen took the snap and was going to spike the ball and didn't, and the announcer was like, "Oh my God, it's the Dan Marino play," because he jumped up and fired that ball at Diggs. I didn't even know that, and Josh said it in the presser, because I bobbled it. Had I spiked it, it would have been intentional grounding. Like, it wasn't a clean motion. So the fact that Josh Allen knew that, first of all, that he knew that, to me is like, oh, okay, that's big. The second to that is the fact that he stood up and Diggs was standing there and somehow was ready to catch the football. Because it was completely not planned. They weren't doing the Dan Marino play. But speak real quick if you could, because the thing that I noticed the most, both in the Tennessee game and this one, Josh Allen typically, when there's a chemistry, there's a relationship between a center and a quarterback. And even when you look at shotgun snaps, when Mitch Morse is snapping the ball's right here every time. Right here every time. Josh Allen, for all intents and purposes, is looking at the defense when the ball's on its way to him. You know what I mean? Because he knows where the ball's going to be. When Van Roten snaps the ball, he's scooping to his left, he's scooping to his right. It's low, it's high, it's a little bit erratic. And people were on the radio today talking about, well, why aren't they taking an extra 20 minutes after practice to work on that relationship between and Tasker and Chris Brown today were like, they did. Like, they knew Van Roten was probably going to play, and they worked on it. But talk, if you could, long setup for this question, I'm sorry. Talk, if you could, just about that new center quarterback or new quarterback center, just that relationship, because we saw there was some mishandling of the football in that game.
Well, first of all, the hardest thing to do, if you look at football nowadays, where do we take all 99% of our snaps from? The shotgun. Correct? So to go under center is hard for a lot of quarterbacks because they're not used to it. They haven't done it in college. And then you go down to Miami and you got, hey, it's just the way it is. Van Ruten's rear end is probably soaked.
Right.
The ball's wet. I mean, there's a lot to it. It's harder than it seems. So you have that aspect. And I mean, he's the kid's out there fighting for his life, man. He's out there fighting and scrapping. He's got guys on him. I mean, his first start, it's in Miami. It's bad enough. It's hot as it is. It's our rival. I mean, there's a lot to it. And, I thought he fought his tail off, and what he did, it was hard. It's hard to do, but you're right. It's not just going and snapping 20 minutes after practice.
Right.
The only way that you can really get comfortable snapping a football is having two frothing 300-plus pounders over you, and you're snapping it, and you're seriously. It's just like we go to games. Like, I was at Ole Miss this weekend watching my son play, and the first drive of the game, they go right down the field and score, and then everybody's like, "I can't believe that Ole Miss." We have nobody in practice that can give you on scout team the speed of what you're going to see.
Right.
It's like when you play Navy and Army running the option. I don't care who you have in practice.
Right.
No ball, with ball, whoever. You have 8 balls. It doesn't matter.
Right.
And that speed of the game's different. So until he gets more reps in games, it'll be a little bit here and there.
Yeah, it's interesting. What you just said is interesting because there's been many times the Bills have faced an opponent, not a lot, but many times, a number of times where the opposing team will go right down the field and score. And then that's it. And it's like, that was easy. We're in trouble. And then once the Bills kind of figure out what this is going to feel like, what you're going to do against us, Leslie Frazier does Leslie Frazier things, and McDermott, I'm sure, helps. And then bang, they just shut the door, and then they bend and they don't break the rest of the way. This is actually a really good question from not the Ralph Wilson Sr. This person's handle is just Ralph, who you have met, Ralph Wilson Sr. But he says, Jerry, with the lack of push up front, should Cromer switch from zone scheme to pin and pull gap scheme? And this is an interesting question because I have felt, and I could be wrong, and John and we don't go back and forth because you don't go back and forth with John. Right. But I have said many times that it feels like they have forced the wide zone, the zone scheme on this offensive line for a while now. And every time they realize this isn't going to work, we don't have the backs for it, we don't have the offensive linemen for it, they switch to the pin and pull. And the end of the season, they find success. Cromer is a different animal. Obviously, he's a much better line coach than Bobby Johnson. So what are your thoughts on just this question?
I think you do a little bit of both. That's my honest opinion. I'm not trying to bail out of this question. I think you do a little bit of both. You have to be able to do both. Actually, our backs are wide zone backs. They're not speedsters. They're not guys that are going to, they're guys that are going to stretch it, put their foot in the ground and get behind the guard or somebody of that nature. That's kind of what wide zone really is. It's you're letting that back pick his spot to go. Pin and pull is a great concept. It really does work a lot of times. I like it. It's a good change up, but again, it's a change up. It's not. I don't think you just go ahead and everything you run is pin and pull. Looking at yesterday, I think it's kind of hard to sit here and really blast an offensive line or get on an offensive line playing the situation they were, which by the end of the game, there were no reserves on the bench.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Greg Manson snapping the ball at that point. It was over. Tommy Doyle was playing right guard.
Right. Nothing. Like, who's coming in next? Like, if somebody went down, seriously, who was coming in next?
I had a moment on my couch where I was like, who's left?
Right. Exactly.
Deion Dawkins goes down right now. Who's left? Dawson is playing left tackle at this point.
Right. So, yeah, I see where you're coming from, and I agree with that. But I don't think you add that at the end of the year. I think you do that all the time. You have to me, once you get to pro football, you want to stay with you have your ideals, but you should be able to add plays every week depending upon what the other team does.
Right.
It's, that's the way I look at it.
So final closing thoughts on just this game and kind of putting just overall arching thoughts to bed for me. And then I'll give you a chance. As I said, I'm not down about this football game at all. I said it as well yesterday. I've become a believer and I've become so confident that I felt like I was hurt more by the fact that they didn't execute the comeback and win, even in the final seconds. Like when they punted the ball off the butt punt and we got the ball back, I was like, this game's over. Like, they're going to go 25 yards, 30 yards, whatever. They're going to give Bass a 62-yard field goal attempt, and he's going to kick it through the uprights. We're going to win this football game. Like, I was sure that they were going to win. This loss doesn't necessarily, for me, put me in any type of a negative situation, and I don't have a problem necessarily with the heat, although Steve Tasker, who you played with as well, did say that he doesn't ever remember it being that hot in a single game that he ever played down there. But do you have any final thoughts just about this game, if you're going to like just put a stamp on it and like, this is my final thought about the game?
Well, first of all, I think that it's shown just how good the front office is and the coaching staff is and the scouting department is of finding talent.
Oh my gosh.
They're pulling guys off the practice squad that are going out there and playing the way they are. Let's not kid ourselves, folks. Miami had 212 yards of total net offense. Okay. 212. You had an entire secondary that was new. I think maybe one guy wasn't.
And one guy wasn't, Taron Johnson, and one of those rookies got injured in the first half.
Yes, and one of them got injured in the first half, came out with his hand taped up, and played special teams. God love him. I love that toughness, because toughness wins. And that's what's going to lead this team to a championship. The toughness displayed yesterday, not only physical but mental toughness, was second to none. This franchise is in a good shape as far as talent and evaluation and all of that. I also love the fact that none of those coaches were like, we had our backups in, we had practice squad guys in. Hey, if I'm going to pay you $10,000 a week to come practice, when it's time to go, you should be ready to go. And I think that they showed that.
Yeah.
Again, I thought the handling of the heat was a little bit of an issue for me, but again, I would have done what Ken Dorsey did too. I'd have threw my iPad, I'd have broke everything I had, because as bad as it was, they still should have won the football game.
Yep.
Especially when it comes down to winning it, it's in 17's hands.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, take it for what it is. I'm like you. I'm not stressed about it. I think it showed more character than people understand. But there's a lot of fixable things, and it hurts because they felt they should have won.
Yeah, on fourth down, when Josh skipped that ball to Isaiah McKenzie, Dorsey, they had the same shot, and Dorsey, you could see the annoyance in his eyes. Like, did that just happen? And he kind of stacked his stuff and like grabbed his pad off the window. Like, it's over. Like, I'm annoyed. This is over. So the fact that he got a second chance to do this again and like, oh, we're going to win this game. And then it was like, everything just went nuts. But
because guys like us are going to talk about it. They're going to talk about it on WGR all week long. They're going to write articles about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, we go, and he's probably going, we go over these situations in practice weekly, and we didn't do it right. So
not that way, not in that heat. There were times, I'm belaboring this moment, but that's fine. There were times in that game where it looked like the offense and the defensive lines, when the Bills were on the field, were in the trenches were in slow motion.
Right.
They were like,
how about this?
They were barely moving. They were like, can this just be over? Like the Zach Moss long run, they all kind of stood up like it was training camp, and Zach Moss just took off, and they were all just like, oh, there he goes.
We call it the sumo effect. When you go to the basketball game, the two people put the sumo suits on and they run into one another. That's what it looked like. Yeah. But no, seriously, what was the stat of the third quarter? The Miami offense was on the bench for 28 minutes before from the first half to the second half, 28 minutes before they touched the ball.
Right.
Are you kidding me?
Well, post-game press conferences, Josh Allen looks like a ginger. Flesh in the face, red-faced hair. So you could see his whole entire body was still sweating. Tua was at the podium. Looks like he's ready for a night on the town. Like he hadn't even worked that day or was even outside. It was
Josh Allen looked like Year Without a Santa Claus, looked like Heat Miser.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So we're going to get on to the good portion, the things that we thought went well in this football game. But first I want to talk about House Capital. Buying a home can feel overwhelming, whether it's your first house or your fourth. Get the friendly expert knowledge of the mortgage loan officers at House Capital Corp. They specialize in mortgages with a variety of loans available. They can find the best fitting loan for you. They make the system simple and hassle-free and can close on most homes in 30 days or less, which in this state, in New York, is a miracle. When you're ready to find your new home, get started with mortgage loan officers like Brian Belser at House Capital. Learn more at House. That's HAUS capitalcorp.com. House is a registered mortgage broker of New York State Department of Financial Services. All loans arranged through third-party providers. Equal housing opportunity. House Capital 500 Pearl. NMLS 1549644. I have to do that because John loves doing that. But if you're looking for a mortgage broker, if you're looking to refinance your home, whatever it is, give Brian Belser a call, 716-815-2102. So moving to the good. So the overarching good things that you saw in this football game, the things that were like, that stuck out to you was like, no, they did this well. They did that well. Talk about that real quick.
I saw a secondary that was backups and practice squad players that fought their tail ends off and played well for who they were going against, who people felt as, some people argue Tyreek's the best receiver in the league and Judy's not far behind. And they did a good job. I thought that the football team displayed a ton of toughness. I thought they fought. You saw that it meant something to them. They didn't lay down. I think that, again, you look at Josh Allen's performance. Offensively, the Bills had 497 yards of offense, 382 passing, 115 rushing. We just talked about it. Yeah. They're down to number 8. They're number 8 offensive linemen. And I just think they battled and they showed a lot of grit. And again, the coaching staff, I think, handles them very, very well. And like you say, it's kind of I don't know if it's a lack of respect. I mean, you can't say next man up when you're talking about 8 to 10 people, right? Next man up is usually 1 or 2.
Yeah.
But it's that next man up mentality, and I thought that they showed that's what I wanted to see out of them.
Yeah,
I think the amount of fight and the amount of grit that they showed, that was big time.
Yeah, you led me perfect. For me, it was the guts, right? How deep, I tweeted it, how deep, we're going to find out how deep the guts are of this football team. And a couple people actually snapped back at me on Twitter when I said that. I said it in the third quarter somewhere because it just got comical, the amount of guys that were going out and the guys that were being platooned off to get IVs and missing time and how long that offense was on the field. And the sticking together, right? There wasn't anybody on that, even with the mistakes, there was still belief on that bench that, we're over here sizzling. We're a bunch of fried eggs. And things are not going well necessarily. We're on the field way too long. The one thing that you want the defense to do, give the ball right back to you, was almost the thing that you didn't want the defense to do, but they kept doing it. Right. So there was that gigantic 20-play drive in the third quarter. And I'm on my couch going, I hope the defense lets them get a couple first downs and then shuts them down because that offense needs a rest. It was I think it was 4 plays. They had 1 first down, 3 and out, punt the ball. I was like, this ain't good. But it was just for me to see that team be together. And I think what's ironic about all of it is there's actually a segment of people, and I know you're on Twitter out there, that are like mad at Sean McDermott about this football game, that we didn't win this game, and somehow it was Sean McDermott's fault because he's over there incessantly clapping his hands and telling everybody good job. But I'd love to know your perspective just about when McDermott stands at the podium and he's asked this question by Adam Benini, who I think was here when you were here.
I know Benini,
he said, was it too much? Was the ask too big for the football team? The heat, the injuries, the mistakes. And he's almost letting McDermott off the hook. He's like, was it just too much to ask of these guys? And McDermott's like, I have a lot of belief in these guys. Like, I believe in this football team. And he was perturbed by the question and walked off the podium. I mean, where are you at when you just with McDermott? Just give me your thoughts of that man.
I think he's an outstanding football coach. I think he gets today's players. I think he understands how to communicate. He understands how to practice all with them and how to put a team together. And that's something that's overlooked nowadays. I say it all the time. I had a really, really good friend in his retirement speech. He was a general in the Air Guard, and he made the comment about, old school military leaders complaining about, today's kids and all this, that they're the soft and they're this and that. And he's like, man, you know what? He goes, if you don't like change, you're really not going to like irrelevance. And I think that Sean McDermott has done that to a T. I mean, he's an old school tough guy. He's an old school D coordinator.
Yep.
And he's doing a wonderful job. I mean, hey, you forget who his college teammate was. His college teammate was Mike Tomlin.
That's right.
They played together, and there's a reason why Tomlin's played for 15 years, or coached for 15 years or whatever. I mean, and never had a losing record.
Right.
McDermott's a tremendous coach. He's outstanding. They're prepared. He treats them like men. His assistant coaching staff is great. If you look at who comes in there, you'll know how good of a coach he is, because guys like Leslie Frazier want to stay and coach with him.
Right.
They're not every year. They're not bailing. It took the guy on television tonight as the head coach of the Giants. How long did it take him till he finally left? That's a big deal.
It was 4 years, I believe.
Right. As hot of a commodity as he was, that's a big deal. And so when you see that, you understand just what a tremendously good job he does. And it's also obvious that he's got a great rapport with not only the front office and being in them, but also the Pagulas as well. So we're fortunate to have him as our head coach.
You just reminded me, so I popped the game on. I forgot the game was on. Just popped the game on. No, everything you're saying is dead on, and it's he's a leader of men. He's a student of leadership, and I know that because I've read a crap ton of leadership books, and he basically chirps things that are in these books that I read, and just to hear his players chirp it back, and it's actually kind of taken over the NFL. So like it started with the Bills talking about this whole being the best version of yourself, and the key to that, the key to that line, the key to that phrase of Jerry, as your leader, I want to make sure that you're the best version of yourself. It doesn't stop there. It's what follows that, and what follows that are these words and then the action behind it. Because Jerry, I want you to know that I want the best for you, whether that's here or someplace else. And the most important thing for me is for you to understand that when you leave this place, I want you to have something that you're taking with you.
Right.
Because if you leave here and you go, the greatness that I am now is a big part of because of what I did back there, because of what they did in me, it's not only going to make you better and you more fulfilled, but it's going to make us better. And there's it's not just, oh, I want to be the best version of myself, which is now what all these players and all these teams are chirping in Buffalo. Jordan Phillips is like, the Lawson, these guys that have left and have come back, and it just there's just something about McDermott as a head coach, and I love the guy, and I think he's fantastic. And I might sound like a bootlicker right now, but for all intents and purposes, I think he's the right man for the job, and I don't ever want to see him leave. I think him and Brandon Beane are like, give me 20 years of those two, right? I don't, even if it goes bad for a couple of years, I trust him to right the ship.
It has nothing to do that he's a redheaded Irishman either. All right.
It might.
No, seriously. I mean, you're right. I mean, it's one of those things where I sense a lot of some Marv stuff and some Wade Phillips stuff in him. Mm-hmm. And those two were really big on the treatment of everyone within the organization.
Right.
They never put themselves on a pedestal. They never put players on a pedestal. But it was the guy, everybody was down to the guy who cleaned the locker room was very, very important to our success. And I sense a lot of that in him.
Agreed.
And, I mean, it's been a long time. And now we got the guy. Hopefully we can keep him here and keep this thing going.
Got the guys, the GM, the head coach, the quarterback. Crazy. Yeah. So we're going to talk about one play. So we've got one play for you that was the good, and Jerry picked this play. So Jerry, this is to set it up. This is the pass to the flat to James Cook.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what the time signature was, and I have it blocked out on the screen, so I don't know necessarily. But real quick, just set this up for us.
Well, basically what Miami was doing, if you look on the inside, both inside linebackers walk down into the A gaps, okay? And the reason they do that is to cause confusion, to cause delay of the offensive lineman. You don't know who's coming. Plus, once they clear, if they blitz, they're there. If they back out, it causes delay by your linemen, and they maybe get to their blocks late. So the Bills could bat. Go ahead, sir.
Can I just interject at how like miserable Josh Allen looks in this frame? He looks like it's hot out here, and I don't want to be.
He's nothing pretty good. So if you look at the snap of the ball, both linebackers stay, so they're obviously going to bail. Right now, if you look at this play, they kind of they have a couple of hot routes built into this play. Your tight end down here, number 85,
Quentin Morris.
Morris, he's going to run a what they call a shallow route, or a skinny or a shallow seam, or I'm sorry, shallow drag route across the middle. And if those linebackers were to blitz, he would be wide open over the middle. And if you watch Josh's eyes, he looks there and he's going to dump it to him. Those guys back out, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So when they back out, his next read right away is the back out of the backfield. See, if you see he's got his arm cocked, he's looking at the tight end, and he sees that they come out, they're going to bail and try to jump that. So he goes right to the tailback.
Yep.
But if you notice, it's illegal if you block them. It's not illegal if you brush him or run into him. So the tight end with his natural route rubs on that linebacker just enough to get that ball. And now look at all the space. And now, we can go ahead and make a guy miss and possibly get a big play. So I thought this was good. It was adjustment of the blitz. It was the way they picked it up. Dorsey, just like his predecessor, a lot of quick outside throws against blitz, and then hopefully go over the top and get something big. So I thought their handling of that was very, very good.
Yeah, I was looking to see if there was an end zone view, but there wasn't. So everything you just said was pretty dope as far as that goes. Like, you can see everything that you're talking about. Quentin Morris is open here, but the linebackers are right there. Obviously, that hot route of the guy just above Quentin Morris is sitting there, but James Cook is the read. And then you did see, just like you said, you saw Quentin Morris kind of not rub him, but just get in his way. This
isn't an RPO, but it's what you would call it's built-in hot routes, whatever, against that mugged up look of the inside linebackers.
Yeah. So cool. Well, let's do this. Let's transition now into the work, and we'll just do some high level talk. And then we've got a bunch of video clips for this.
Yeah.
We've got, just for those and we haven't done video clips this year. This is the first time we've done them, and I know people have been asking for them. So I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that we got to get this. We got the whole thing worked out. But so we'll spend some time on the work, but high level, just where do the Bills need to work the most from what you saw yesterday?
Obviously, they're going to have to work on a lot of recognition. I thought that they because you've got so many new offensive linemen in there, you got to work on your recognition. And there were some things that the Miami Dolphins did that gave some blitzes away, gave some stunts away that they didn't pick up. And then also there's some recognition stuff by the center that he can do differently to help his tackles and help the other offensive linemen. And we'll look at some of that here in a moment.
Yeah, it's hard for me to clear how do I want to say this? There's people out there that are completely letting the Bills off the hook, and I'm not that guy. I'm very confident in what I saw yesterday. Am I upset they lost?
No.
Sure. Do I feel like they could have won? Yes. Were there a lot of mistakes? Yes. Did they have ample opportunities to win that game? Yes. Am I down on them? It's such a hard conversation for me because to me, if that game's in Western New York, if that game is in a dome, the bonk, as you said, called, right? The wall that they hit, both at the end of this first half and at the end of the second half, the slight. I mean, when you're in that state, when you are that taxed, when you are that tired, when you are that hot, when you are that dehydrated, just that fraction of a mental miss is all it takes, right? It's hard for me to land on anything significant because I felt the defense played out of its mind, like you said. Would I've liked to have seen more pressure? Yes, and I think we're going to talk a little bit about that.
What happens, though? What happens, Joe, when you put pressure, when you really try to make pressure happen? What happens?
It depends on the quarterback, right? It depends on what happens. It's either going to force them into mistakes or they're going to beat you.
but you stress your secondary, right?
Right. You stress your secondary, right?
And where that was what they were scared to death about. And I think that's why you probably didn't see some of the pressure stuff they normally do, because it's put some guys on an island.
Yeah.
And as good as they did scouting wise, as good as they are, and like we said earlier, they've got a tremendous cachet of players right now with talent. I don't want my practice squad guy fresh off the squad going one-on-one versus Judy. You know what I mean?
Waddle.
or Waddle. I keep saying Judy. Waddle, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Waddle.
close.
They're all the Alabama receivers.
You said Jerry Judy early, and I wasn't going to argue with you. I was like, no,
you should have. So you correct me, man. I'm making mistakes.
I was like, that dude's pretty good too. But there was a lot of questions about that as far as why there wasn't more pressure, and I landed at, and this is literally a John Fina-ism. I don't know what the game plan was. There was a good chance.
I don't either.
There was a good chance that they were telling Vaughn not to attack, is right. So, and I think we've got a play where we're going to see a little bit of that. But let's talk about just some of the work. And I think the first one we've got is the Josh Allen fumble. What it was? Where was this at? So this was early 5-10, right, in the first quarter. So this was after the two Zach Moss runs, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Okay, so this is the sack that gave them, think about that, gave them 7 points. All right, what we want to talk about here is the center, okay? And what happens before in the old days, when you played center, you look between your legs. You'll see Josh Allen here in a moment. He'll raise his leg. Well, the difference is the center is not looking between his legs anymore, because what Belichick and the Patriots started doing, as soon as you look between your legs, they would change everybody around. And I remember when that happened, I'm sitting there and I feel Reuben Brown's tapping my leg. I'm like, what, Rube? And I look up and I'm like, oh, okay. So what they do now is the guard.
The amoeba defense? Is that like the amoeba defense?
Yes, exactly. The amoeba defense. So now the guard looks, and you'll see the right guard turn and look. And when Josh raises his leg, you'll see him shoot his arm forward.
Yep.
That's telling the center he wants the ball. Now the center violently turns his head. Okay, you'll see it. And right after he turns his head, woof, the ball goes.
Right.
And the reason he turns his head is because he's showing the tackles, hey, we're getting ready to go, because they might not be able to see the hand. The problem is he never changes that up. Every snap, he does the exact same thing. You don't think a defensive line is going to time that and get downhill? If I did that 3 times in a row, Fina would be in the huddle and he'd be like, yo, dude, like, you need to switch this up. The rule is the ball can come anytime after the head moves, okay?
Gotcha.
And you actually can see the Dolphins center changing it up a lot.
Yeah.
He needs to change that up, because right here, if you watch his play, Deion Dawkins ain't even out of his stance.
And the defensive ends around him.
Right, and the defensive end, Ingram's around them. So that's not necessarily something that's horrid, but what you're doing is you have to have situational awareness, and this is what I thought we kind of lacked a little bit of yesterday. You got to have awareness to help your guys out in a hostile environment when the times are tough, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something, altering that snap count, altering when that ball goes, is something you can do to help your guys out.
What's interesting too, and this I kind of noticed this, is the last time this offensive line looked this, I don't want to say unprepared, just this maybe overmatched is a better word, right? When you talk about matchups and what they're doing against us versus what we've prepared against them. The last time the Bills offensive line looked this way was the Steelers home opener last year.
Yes.
And across from Deion Dawkins was Melvin Ingram.
Yes.
Same player. Yes. And Melvin Ingram had a great game. I don't know why Melvin Ingram, after that Steelers game, I was like, this might be the best defensive player in football. And then he kind of vanished. Right. And then he comes back and plays Buffalo again. And I know that happens. Like, sometimes there's just guys. Mario Williams used to do it all against the Dolphins all the time. When Mario Williams was a Buffalo Bill and we played the Dolphins with Tannehill, he used to eat his lunch over and over and over again. It was crazy.
I have one of those guys too. When I used to play Miami and they had me out of right tackle and you're down there and you're sucking wind, Trace Armstrong was miserable for me. It was like the most miserable deal going, because that dude only played third downs and all he did all week long was watch me on film.
Right.
And, it was miserable. So it's hard. So you want you really need your center to help out when he can, and this is an area where they can help out.
Right. So you can see exactly what you're talking about. You can see Deion Dawkins' head to the inside, and as soon as that head, Van Roten's head snaps back, you see Deion look to the outside to find it, to pick up his man, right? Because the ball's coming, and then by that time Ingram's around him.
Yeah, the human body can't move that quick. I mean, he's snapping the ball before his head even comes back. I mean, you got to give Deion a chance.
Right, for sure. So the next one that we have is the Josh Allen sack by Ingram, and I picked this one. Oops, I took it out of the
okay.
With that. I picked this one because there was just an aspect of what it looked like Ingram did to Spencer Brown, and thank God Spencer Brown continued to crawl after him, which I don't know why he did that, but you'll see it when he hits the ground. He crawls, and then the ball ends up in his hands because Josh fumbles it. But you can talk about this one.
Basically what happens here is the golden rule of pass pro is you never set down the middle of a defensive lineman.
What does that mean?
Okay, so if you watch his set, watch how wide he goes. Okay, ready, stop. You see he's already even with him?
Yeah.
His head and Ingram's head they're right in line with one another, right?
Right.
So what happens now? Well, what he's done is his right guard's already blocking somebody. He's completely open that inside C gap. Okay, so that gives Ingram, a guy who's fast, a guy who's a good pass rusher, it gives him two ways to go. He can go inside or out. In this case, he goes inside because, unbeknownst to Brown, that tailback's sitting out there, so he's not going to run to where the tailback is.
Right.
And he's completely open the inside. Now, if he goes ahead and short sets that, which is doesn't jump outside and keeps the outside half of his body down the middle of Ingram,
right.
He's now gone ahead and said, okay, you got two ways to go, outside me or through me, but you're not going to go inside.
Right.
And, we used to always talk about, we had an offensive line coach, John and I did. He used to always talk about, when you go play blackjack in Vegas, if the dealer shows 6 or less, you stay, right?
Right.
Because that's a bus card for the dealer.
Yeah, bus card.
In this case, you've gone out and you just hit on 16 or less. And you have gone ahead and you've given them two ways to go.
Well, Spencer Brown's also missing. John Fina talks all the time just about that punch, that initial set punch.
Right.
And Spencer Brown doesn't punch him at all. He doesn't get a hand in the shoulder.
Right.
Like maybe he does right there. He tries to hit him with his right hand, and it looks like he whiffs.
Well,
right
I think from by the looks to me, he's still struggling a little bit with this back thing. He's not in midseason form. We all know that he likes to be a real aggressive player, and he likes to finish plays. That there wasn't how he plays. So I'd have to think that he's still struggling a little bit, but you know what? At least he hustles and crawls and gets on that fumble and saves that turnover.
You ain't kidding there. The next one we have is the Devin Singletary handoff that you wanted to talk about as far as the run play here.
Was this me?
Yeah, this is yes. Sorry about that. I'll let it
run.
Oh,
yeah, okay.
Yep.
Okay, what we're going to talk about here is what the Bills got the sack on earlier. This is again another situational awareness thing. Look at what, and you know what? I give the Dolphins credit. This is great. I mean, this is great awareness. This is a great call because you got Gabe Davis out here with what you think is a tight split. That guy walks up inside. He's never going to get him.
Right there it is.
And the problem is the tight end, his awareness has to be when he walks up outside like this, pause it. Okay. Everybody has a gap to play.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to run two people through the C gap. So that guy that's there on him has to be spiking hard across his face. So in his mind, he has to be saying, I've got to do whatever I can to get my hat inside and cut that off. Doesn't have to look pretty. You just have to cut it off and keep that penetration from happening. They get penetration here, and the rest is history. So I don't think the Bills, and I think it has to do a lot with the heat, their situational awareness yesterday and looking at things that were given away to them, they didn't pick those up very well, and it hurt them in a lot of cases.
Yeah, Gabe Davis is in no man's land here. And it's funny because like last week, Khalil Shakir played for Gabe Davis, and we've got an end zone look at this. And there was many times, this is the Gabe Davis thing. So Gabe Davis, because of his size, a lot of times you'll see him in this position grouping where he's the only wide receiver on the field. He comes in and he ends up being an extra man blocker. Khalil Shakir last year got caught up in the wash and looked lost in this moment. And I don't think Gabe Davis looks lost as much as he just looks beat. And then it's like, no, I don't know.
Because the problem is, look at this. If you go back, okay, if you go back to this, if you start at the center, okay, where the center is, if you count the guy on the center, you got 1, the linebackers 2, guy over the guard 3, guy on the tackle 4, guy on the tight end 5, and you can actually count with Gabe's split so tight, the guy on him 6. You got 6 guys on this side of the ball, okay? You've only got 1, 2, 3 over here with a guy that's split out. So technically, I want to underneath handoff, and I want to go to the left.
Right.
I want to go ahead and hand that ball off or call an audible to get him over to the left side of this because they've got too many cats over here.
Right.
Now, I don't know what was called. I mean, I don't know if they had a call where they were trying to get Josh to pull it here or whatever. Even if he did pull it, that guy that's on Gabe Davis is now going to be that contained player, and it's probably going to be a tough play for him. He's going to either have to do one of his stiff arms or Superman fly or whatever to get some positive yardage. So really the Dolphins did a great job by walking this up last minute, taking that runaway there, okay? I'd almost like to go the other way.
What's amazing, and I just caught this, is that linebacker, that defensive back, the safety that comes in, that Gabe misses, also misses Devin Singletary and tackles Josh.
Right. And I'll tell you what's nice here. If you go back, I'll give you another good. Look at the right tackle. Look at Quisenberry and your right guard, Bates.
Yeah.
They smashed this double team on the backside. We used to call that a B block. And they've got that move. So if we had that cut off, they're more than likely we're going to get positive yards there and squirt that out. But again, you've got to have that situational awareness and know he's going to go inside.
Yeah, well, it was who was that on the inside that looks like he was holding? Oh, it was Quentin Morris. Quentin Morris was holding his guy.
Yeah,
is basically what ended up happening there.
I mean, did they call it?
They did not call it. So they did not. Real quick, I need to jump over to our last sponsor just because this is a lot of fun. Jerry, thank you so much. But I need to talk about Q42. Grills Mafia tailgate season is here. Whatever sauce or rub you've been using, turn the bottle around and check the ingredients. Compare what's in that to what's in Q42. Q42 is all natural, crafted in Western New York with local honey and real ingredients. It's why Q42 remains undefeated in blind taste tests. Get yours at Q42barbecue.com. Put in the code Fina Show and save 15%. Everybody that I know is using Q42.
Well, real quick, it's my go-to rub on briskets. The Texas brisket rub is phenomenal.
Nice.
I use it, and then the other rub, the KC style rub, I use on my pork shoulders. Tremendous rubs to use. If you're a pellet smoker guy, you need to use these rubs because they produce unreal bark in pellet smokers.
Nice. So we have 2 videos left, and we made a mistake. We have another good that we didn't get to, which was the Tua sack. But people are asking, it's already been in the comment section, just about the 3rd and 22. And you kind of wanted to talk about this real quick. This one shouldn't take long, but if you want to just kind of dissect this real quick, as far as 3rd and 22, and Tua hits Waddle up the seam, but he splits basically the cover 2 shell, which JP Lossman could never do in his entire life. Just hits it perfect.
I mean, really, this is just a really well drawn out play, and to be honest with you, it's my guy's better than your guy. I mean, Waddle's a tremendous player, but if you watch this play, and you'll see more of it when they go, that gets that cover 2 shell split. Because anytime a receiver, you got to realize this. Anytime a receiver, if you watch what he does when he runs the out, he runs right at the face.
This
really
is
well drawn out play.
This is the Gabe Davis route. It's also the route that Stephon Diggs ran against the Titans on his long bomb. He just ran it. Right. I think the same side of the field. Same side of the field.
I think so.
Yeah, same side of the field. Or was it against Jalen Ramsey? Whatever. Stephon Diggs actually ran the route. But
this play is your front guys, your 4 guys up front, or if you bring in pressure, they got to get to Tua so that he has to pull it down and doesn't have the time to let this develop.
Yeah,
that is a long developing play. And they probably, again, saw something sitting in cover 2, probably not going to get the blitz that you think, and they were able to make the play.
Yeah, for sure. And then the last one we have is a good play. This is the Tua sack, and I like what you said in the setup was that we gave them a little bit of their own medicine. So
right, exactly. If you look up top, we went ahead and we brought our guy down on the line of scrimmage, and we got a guy on the guard, and we got a guy on the tackle, and we got a guy outside, and you'll see what we do. It's a tell. This guy's creeping up. You see him creeping up early. Watch what they do. They all slant inside.
No.
I will say this, though.
Hamlin.
I think the guy that made this play, Joe, is Russo. And here's why. Watch, I believe this is this Gesicki, the tight end for the Dolphins.
I can tell you.
He's set up for the hot. He's set up for the dump. But I think he feels Russo's pressure on the backside and makes him pull it down. Watch right here when he comes across, right? So here comes the guy. Look, see? He's got his hand up. Give me the ball. Now, I know the guy's here, but he might make a miss, maybe save all this lost yardage. But there's a ton of pressure coming backside, doesn't allow him to step up. And I think Greg Russo right now is playing tremendous football, a young guy that's really, really playing up to his draft spot. And I'd like to see him, especially with Ed Oliver out, get down over top of a guard in a 3 technique in pass rush situations and get an athletic mismatch.
That's something. I made the joke. I made the joke on Twitter that was a great sack by EJ Manuel, and nobody laughed. So I thought it was funny. I was like, hey, I see a guy running around with the number 3 on. It's got to be EJ Manuel, right? But yeah,
the whole single-digit defensive lineman thing just is not. I don't like that. Especially when fat guys wear number 8. It's just too many round things going on.
Right. So let's wrap this show up. And Jerry, you have been awesome. And for those that have tuned in late, you are tuned into the Off Tackle with John Fina show, brought to you by the Market Dominator, House Capital, and Q42. And John is not with us tonight. His dear mother, passed away yesterday. So he is with his family, and they're spending time together, just celebrating her life today. But I appreciate everything that you've been a part of. Like, this has been phenomenal. It's been awesome. And it's funny because I don't feel like I'm going into the bench. I feel like the level has not declined at all. The only thing that has gone away is I don't have any snark coming back at me. Like, if I make a comment, nobody's making fun of me, which normally happens with John.
Well, understand, we're not going to have any Wally Pep situations here when he bowed out, and what was it, DiMaggio or whoever took over for him? No, it wasn't. It was Gehrig. It was Lou Gehrig, and then played what? That had the record before Ripken broke it. But no, I appreciate you having me on. It's been awesome.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do a good job for John because you guys do such a good job of this. And much respect and love to both of you. But next expectations.
Yeah.
I think you continue to build. I think we're still so early in the season. If you've got some guys that are iffy that you don't really want to play them because you're worried about affecting, their play for the rest of the year, rest them. I'm sorry, it's human nature, but it's also why there's 17 games. Okay. This is a long season. It's not a sprint. I know you've heard it before. It's a marathon. It is a long marathon. Yeah. And by the way, that's where the term bonk came from. You watch marathon runners when they hit about mile 23 and they just go rubber-legged. No. That's the bonk.
The bonk.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the Bills step up. I think they bounce back. You're going to see a lot of no-pad practices this week, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I think you're going to see them hydrate. They're going to take care of themselves, try to get back again, probably a lot of cold tubs and a lot of cold plunges, and get their muscles back and get their bodies back. Because here's the thing. These guys know how to play football, okay? You can get your timing and everything you need without going out there and beating the hell out of each other.
Right.
And I think this is one of those weeks where you make sure you're assignment sound and you get ready to play a good football team. Yeah. And again, another quarterback that gives you another look that you haven't seen before, as of yet this season, a guy that runs all over the place and can make plays with his feet as well as a big arm. So big week for them to recover and just keep building on what they've been doing.
For me, it's going to sound overwhelmingly arrogant, and I don't mean it to. I just feel like this team is in a good place. Like the defense, I don't think the defense is going to be outmatched this weekend. Anytime you're going up against Lamar Jackson, he's an all-world talent and he's going to provide challenges. But the Bills play guys that provide all-world challenges every week. The first week was Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald. The second week it was Derrick Henry, right? Yesterday it was Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And I think the Bills are just up for the challenge, and I think they correct a lot of these mistakes. 6 of them, and if one of them isn't a mistake, it's a different we're having a completely different conversation. So I agree with you. I think they're going to take care of their bodies this week. I think you look to see the Bills bounce back, and to be honest with you, even if they don't, this is another one. If they go 2-2 in this first stretch of 4 games, which is brutal, they got the Pittsburgh Steelers in, which that's a not a great football team, and then you and I we'll actually, with John Fina, we'll be in Kansas City.
Yes.
The Bills play the Chiefs in Kansas City. I'm greatly looking forward to that. But I expect the Bills to bounce back. Mark Andrews provides a challenge, and then obviously, Lamar Jackson. But for me, I think the Bills have a great shot at winning this football game this weekend. But they're going to have to.
Dobbins is getting healthy again. And they're kind of putting him on a pitch count as far as how many plays he played this week. I think they'll free him up a little more next week. So you'll have to worry about that as well. But I think that hopefully Ed Oliver's back. That's a big loss right now. We don't have any inner pocket disruptor. If you can get Phillips back, that would be great. One of the two I would be okay with that.
Right.
And then, we'll see what happens. And I think, I guess the biggest question right now, Joe, is when does White show up?
So I believe PUP he can't play or practice. Obviously can't practice for the first 4 weeks. And the consensus is there's no way that he would come back week 5. Right. So there's an aspect of them elevating him to the active roster so then he can practice. Right. So the idea would be week 5, they would elevate him to the active roster so he could practice. He'd get 3 weeks of practice in. Bye week is week 7, and he'd be back game week 8. Right. So is kind of the looming thought. At least what I've been hearing. So
I would have to say, though, you probably are amiss if you don't think they're putting him through the rigors right now.
Oh, I don't know.
Nobody's saying it.
Is he allowed to be at the facility if he's on PUP?
Don't matter if he's at the facility. I guarantee you he's training like a madman.
Well, I'm telling you,
wherever he is, you can go anywhere anymore. I mean, they'll drive to your house with a semi, pop the back down, and you have a gym in your front yard. I mean, know how they are. He
was doing things in training camp off to the side that was stuff normal humans can't do, and he just had ACL surgery. Like he was jumping and landing on one foot, and then he'd jump and land on the other foot, and then jump. And I'm just sitting there going, if I was healthy, I don't think I could do that. And it's just, he was just doing otherworld stuff. But
I guarantee you he's stressing that knee right now, getting ready to go. And when he plays, he's going to be all right.
Jerry Ostrowski, former Buffalo Bill, sitting in for John Fina, a couple of legends I get to hang around with. Jerry, tell everybody where they can find you.
You know what? I have to even look at my my deal on Twitter. I even forget what it is anymore. It's been, I'm old, man. I'm not pretty like Fina. He's a smart guy. I ran my head into the ground for too long, but I'm on Twitter at Ostrowski_Big O. So that's where I like, Twitter is paradise for old men like me. So if you want to catch me on at Ostrowski, OSTROSKI_Big O. And love to hear from you. I'm so excited about Kansas City. I can't even. Heck, I'm getting to where I can't even sleep, man. I'm ready to go.
Final thoughts?
I'm very, very proud of this football team. I'm very proud from the top, the front office, all the way to the bottom. I thought they handled this week extremely well. You know what else? How else they handled it? Unlike those idiots in Miami, they handled it with class. Okay, they handled it with class. Our football team is a classy organization. Our fans are classy.
Exactly.
And they handled themselves very, very well. I'm proud of our football team for how the toughness they displayed, and I'm proud of our fan base for not only how they support, but how classy they are as individuals. And I can't wait to meet some of them in a few weeks up in Kansas City. And I was drafted by the Chiefs, and they cut me.
That's right.
So I will be talking. I might not be quite as classy as the rest of them. We win that football game. I might be talking some gas, but it'll be good.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been tuned into the Off Tackle with John Fina show, brought to you by the Market Dominator team on the Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network, presented by Picasso's Pizza. My name is Joe Miller. I'm the host of the show. You can find me on Twitter at Joe Miller Wired. That over there is Jerry Ostrowski. For me, for Buffalo Rumblings, for Q42, for House Capital, for the Market Dominator team. Jerry, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here.
Same. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate you.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
I'm talking about straining for that logo on the side of your helmet and not the name on your back.
Yes, sir.
Because we know what it represents. It represents everybody here you see and everybody you can't that we've talked about. I'm here to strain with you, man. I swear to God, I'm here to strain with you. Let's go. Everything you got, strain with everything you got. Let's go. Bills on 3. 1, 2, 3. Bills.
You're listening to the Off Tackle with John Fina show with your host, Joe Miller.